All right. Well, greetings and shalom to everybody. I hope you're having an amazing week and enjoying this wonderful sunshine that we're having all over the country. I see the work of Source on so many levels. It's not even funny. The things that are going on in the earth, the things that are going on in humans. We are truly in a transitional time. Some of you may be recognizing it, others will not. It's okay if you don't. Inevitably, eventually you will. So we're blessed to get to have an opportunity to look today even further into all of this. I hope you guys have been being blessed. This stuff is just absolutely, has totally revolutionized my picture of who Yeshua was and what his purpose was. And it's really funny that for me he's a whole lot easier to relate than the Jesus of the Bible. So we'll see some more tonight. We know that there's now been a vision, and it has been seen. It appears that his knowledge, he already knew that, and so he's okay with it. He's at peace with it, and as we do, it makes a little more credence to the whole thing that Paul said about don't be like the heathens and the pagans who don't understand what death was all about. Paul wasn't preaching a Christian message, he was preaching a cosmic message. And I'm quite convinced with all that we've learned that Paul truly was a cosmic believer. And so I hope you guys are seeing some truths function in your world. I hope you're doing research, positively research for benevolent outcome that will help you grow in true metaphysics and not get hung up in some of the things that are being sold out there. And so we're gonna take off in They Walked with Jesus right after we do this here. How wonderful it is to get the opportunity to humble ourselves. Namaste. And so Yeshua's been walking, and we left off with Abigail giving us a picture. She says this. She says this was more. I'm sorry. Dolores says he did that for a reason because he knew it was going to happen. I would think that after seeing him survive, the Romans would realize he wasn't an ordinary human being. And Abigail responds, this was more apparent to them, so they sped up their intervention on the streets. They knew that unless they turned the masses against him, they would not survive. Now, I would like for you to just use a little common sense and ask yourself a question. And I'm not saying some woo-woo out there, some weird thing, but does that statement not at least give you a hint of why what's going on in our country has been going on and is continuing to go on? Why Yeshua came and taught the truth, and the truth was love and caring about other people and all of these things, and they hated him for it. And I think that if you really would open your mind up and allow your crown chakra to expand, you certainly the divine universe would give you downloads that might help you to see that are yet again just in another cycle of the same kind of thing that's going on. The difference here is there are many Yeshuas on the earth. There are many people who are sharing truth, and so you really are blessed to be in this time. It's going to be tumultuous. It's going to be rocky. There's some supernatural energy shifts that are going on right now. Maybe some of you have experienced them. Some of them you might have and don't notice it. But there's very definitely things going on. The earth is speeding up. We're seeing more and more of this volcanic activity all over the world. truly we are in a state of transition. And so it's quite easy to understand if you have come from one place to another, the essence of that transition, but it's actually infinitely bigger than just our journey from Christianity into true energy belief. And so she says that they intervened on the street. They knew that unless they turned the masses against him, they would not survive. Who does that sound like? They would not retain their power, so they lived in more fear after he survived. That could be an epitaph that was on the front page of the frickin' newspaper today. And so Dolores asked then, that is why he doesn't want to return to Jerusalem anytime soon. And Abigail responds, yes, but he will return because there are people there that need him. He knows he must carry out his plan and his mission, so he will go back. And so Dolores then asked, maybe this was why he didn't want to take you back to Jerusalem. And Abigail explains, she says, after I told him of my vision, he told me of the truth and clarity in it. He also told me there was no need to walk with him. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Can I just dare to show you at how really horribly deep the brainwashing has been? You've been told your whole life that you can do whatever you want to do, and most people have, and that Jesus is going to save you. Every bit of what I just said is a concocted lie. That never was his message, nor before Christianity in the year 312 AD was that ever taught. Wow, that's 300 years after Yeshua died, friends, is when Christianity started. Not one of the person at the very first council with Constantine, not one of those people personally knew any of the disciples. So they could say whatever they wanted and say this is what Jesus said. And that's exactly what they did. That's why these things are so valuable. It's happening all over the place right now. My understanding is they have over 40,000 near-death experiences that all come with a message. They have so many of them that they haven't even explored and interviewed all the people to get what that person saw during this journey called a near-death experience. And so Dolores says, maybe this was why he didn't want to take you back to Jerusalem. And she says, after I told him my vision, he told me of the truth and clarity in it. So obviously for him to tell her how right she was, he must have already had forethought and foreknowledge about what was coming. So was he surprised? Obviously not. Was he concerned? Obviously not. What did he understand that it's all a big lie, that it's accorded unto every man wants to live and then wants to die and then the judgment? And so she says, my mission, he also told me there was no need to walk with him. And I suspect what his last days and what things looked like over there in Jerusalem was totally different than what the Bible tells us. And so she says, my mission was to stay at the village where I was needed and could be of service. I could grow here, and then my next path would become clear to me. But I know why he does not want me to come. He does not want me to be there. There is no reason to go, for we both know what will happen. What a life of living in empowerment of everything. You aren't just the victim that your things are happening to you. And the problem is that you can only access that by yourself. That is to say, no one can do that, not even Jesus. It's up to you to find your inner self. And if you don't, then you don't. I'm not going to send you to hell because you don't. I watch lots of people that, you know, some have made advances and some aren't making advances. It doesn't mean necessarily that they won't, but inevitably they will be the ones that decide whether they do or not. It's not anybody else. Nobody's holding you captive. The only person holding you captive is your mind. And so she says, but I know why he does not want me to come. He does not want me to be there. There is no reason to go, for we both know what will happen. That's to me, such a profound perspective. She's at peace. She knows that she's going to be sad that whatever's going to happen to him happens to him. But on the other side, she knows that's part of his path, and even more so, he knows that's part of his path. And so Dolores asked, I thought maybe he was afraid to take you back into the city because they would be looking for him. And Abigail says, yes, but there is no need for me to go. So her, who was so adamantly going to follow, something in the midst of all of this changed her inside. Is that because maybe she started spending time meditating and she started listening to her intuition instead of arguing with it, which many people do? Many people are the intuition, the psychic part of us is speaking, and yet they refuse to listen. You have to train yourself to listen to what the Spirit is saying to you. And if you're not interested in investing in yourself to do so, you will continue to not hear what the Spirit is calling and saying to you. That's why people make so many errors in their path. And yes, they needed the error if they refused to listen. Was there another path? And we're going to find out in the future that Edgar Cayce was capable of seeing that every one of us have 10 or 15 different lines that our life. My life did not have to end up as it is. There were 15 other choices I chose not to take. And you too. But be sure of this. It was a choice, and you made it. And so Dolores then writes, amazingly in this session, Anna supplied missing parts of a story that she consciously did not even know. When Jesus decided to return to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, his disciples feared for his safety, but the Bible never makes it clear why. Now it was obvious why they didn't want him to return. He had already been exposed to torture and near death several times. He was safe if he stayed in Nazareth area because that was Philip's, Herod Antipas's brother's, domain, and he was beyond the power of the Jerusalem authorities. From Capernaum, he could also easily avoid Herod Antipas. The Romans did not normally send their troops that far from their stronghold in Jerusalem. He could also find privacy in these smaller towns if he desired it for himself and his disciples. He could be more open in his teachings in these communities away from the larger cities. But in some areas, such as the meetings in the caves around the Sea of Galilee, he knew he had to be more careful because of the possible presence of spies. This must have been John's job to speak with the organizers of the meetings, to know which areas would pose a danger, in which case hidden meeting places would have to be arranged. Jesus did not go blindly into these areas. He had information concerning the group's safety before John would allow him to enter. He was safe in the village of the lepers because this was a place to be shunned, and only selfless but devoted people like his group would have the courage and the caring to go there. In such places, he had no worry about being overheard by spies planted by Rome. He could relax and live a seemingly normal life. This was probably why he sought out these isolated towns. In Jerusalem, there were many diverse nationalities and religions, and many had difficulty understanding Jesus' teaching. Even amongst the Jews, there was a variety of spiritual and mental outlooks, even heathen. Among all of these were nationalists, often natives of Galilee, to whom God and the people, God in Jerusalem, God in the temple were inseparable objects. They burned with indignation over everything which was not in accord with this unity. Against this background, Jesus was perceived as not national enough for the nationalists, too old-fashioned for the Sadducees, too modern and liberal for the Pharisees, and too strict for the ordinary people of the street. He had a difficult time trying to be all things to all people, as Paul said. In Jesus' time, the only education was education in religion. They were taught that the law of Moses was the most important teaching and the only thing they were expected to base their life and their thinking on. Jews were not taught to think for themselves or to question the rabbis or the priests. In Jerusalem, Jesus was viewed with suspicion because he was asking people to go against the only teaching they had ever been exposed to. He was asking them to listen to a totally different way of thinking, and many were incapable of doing so. It was much easier to present his new and radical ideas to those in the outlying towns who were open to listening to ideas that were contrary to their upbringing. It was not easy for people to listen and accept concepts that were totally opposite to everything they had been taught all their life. Many considered him a dangerous radical and his teachings the ramblings of a madman. Historians claim that Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount could never have been preached in the Jerusalem area because that city was a hotbed of tradition. The sermon presented the opportunity to the listener to look beyond tradition and the exact letter of the law, which, with no question, if people have viewed me as doing the same thing because I teach that what they've been taught in their traditions are lies, including my own family. And so to a new and enlarged application of old sayings and truths. Such a state of mind would not have generally been found in Judea at that time, but was exactly what could be expected in the region of Capernaum. Jesus had turned the rabbis, priests, and traditional Jews against him because he thought the priests in the temple concentrated too much on rituals and the performance of ceremonies. They did not look at the problems and the concerns of people. Jesus saw that there was a greater conflict than the one between Rome's tyranny and the Jewish belief that they were the chosen people of God. The people in Palestine had real cause to be afraid of the Romans. During Jesus' lifetime, at the beginning of the reign of Herod Antipas, some Jews tried a rebellion. It was put down by the superior strength of the Romans, and 2,000 Jews were crucified as punishment. The people lived with the oppression of a harsh ruler, but their hope for a Redeemer, a Messiah, a Savior, to lead them out of it showed that they were desiring an overthrow of the existing government and a return of their lost freedoms. And just so that you realize, we were told he was the Savior, that he was the Messiah. The Jews hated him because he didn't do what a Messiah was supposed to do. So to the Jews, which is why they hate Jesus today still, because he wasn't the man that they were told the Messiah was going to be. He was going to come and he was going to help the Jewish people defeat Rome. And he did nothing remotely close to that. And so the people lived with the oppression of a harsh ruler, but their hope for a Redeemer, a Messiah, my Redeemer lives. There's one Christian song for you. The Messiah, a Savior, my Savior lives, to lead them out of it, and showed that they were desiring an overthrow of the existing government and a return of their lost freedoms. The Zealots, who can also are directly tied to many of the Essenes, used these emotions to fuel their cause. They thought that Jesus would be the new king in the literal sense, and that he would side with them in a real war to free the country. His mild ways and talk of love angered them because they expected violence to be the answer. Judas Iscariot is now recognized as probably belonging to the Zealots, which is correct. Sicaria, he was an assassin. He was a zealot assassin. Many of you don't know that, in fact, He was Jesus' bodyguard. And so this was one of the reasons behind his betrayal of Christ, so it's perceived. He thought he could force Jesus into a situation where he would have to fight and the rest of the people would join him. The Romans were very aware of the volatile situation in Jerusalem and the possible danger presented by anyone who might appear as a leader. Same reason John the Baptist was killed. When Jesus entered the city on Palm Sunday, exalted by the cheering throng, the Romans knew they would have to get rid of him by any means. His popularity had grown to a threat that menaced them. The people were acknowledging him as the long-awaited Messiah who would lead them from bondage and slavery to the Romans. He was the man who would lift the yoke. The authorities saw that this man Jesus could be the one to stir the people into rebellion. This gentle man could no longer be tolerated. He would have to be eliminated. And so, just so that you understand, there are pieces that have yet to really be clarified to many people as to his place. But to be sure, he was anything but what they made him out to be. That still goes on in politics. We have presidents that are presented through lying and treason to be conscious when they're in fact totally unconscious. And then we have people who are functioning in consciousness who are said to have mental issues. So just be very careful. Just because they say words, they are thoughts, but it doesn't mean they're rational thoughts. And so my research revealed that the underground area of Jerusalem is riddled with old passages and secret chambers, and that is correct. The catacombs. These areas and sections of two walls are the only parts that remain of the original biblical city. There were many chambers beneath the site of the temple. Some of these were used by Roman soldiers to provide secret access from their fortress at the corner of the temple wall to other areas as a means of defense. It is logical to assume that this was the area Naomi refers to where Jesus was taken to be questioned and tortured in the hope he would be intimidated into giving up his radical teachings. The ravine into which Naomi said he was thrown was mentioned in all the historical data referring to the ancient city. At the time of Jesus, the city was divided by a ravine called the Tyropian Valley, spanned by a bridge. On the east side of the enormous high temple wall lay the Kedron Ravine, or the Kidron Valley, which was also spanned by a bridge from the Mount of Olives. Josephus said this valley was so deep they could not see the bottom when looking down from this wall. According to the historical research, Jesus' brother James was murdered there. And just so that you know, James was teaching the same doctrine. And it put him at odds with the Jews because he was telling them all of these things that y'all are doing is not what the universe desires of us. And so he was thrown from the temple wall, and then I believe a fuller, a soap maker, beat him to death with a stick where he fell to. And so this occurred in the turbulent time following Jesus' death on the cross. These valleys no longer exist. If Jesus was able to survive the torture and death attempts of the Romans, then it should be obvious that he could have escaped being arrested and crucified. He died only because he chose to do so. And Jesus says in the Bible, John 10, verses 17 and 18, I lay down my life that I might take it up again. But here's maybe the thing that people miss. That wasn't the version now. He laid down his life to come to this earth. To take it up again is what he did when he died. So to get that in proper perspective, when he says life, he's not talking about his physical carnal time he spent on this earth. He's talking about being truly alive. So right now we're in a state of stasis. We are in a state of mirage. We're in a state of mystery and deception, unclarity and no reality. And I know you think this is reality, but it's anything but reality. And so he died only because he chose to do so. As Jesus says in the Bible, I lay down my life that I may take it again. No man takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. Well, I would also like for you to consider for a minute that actually each one of us have done that same thing. Whether you're aware of it or not really doesn't change the truth. It just means that you lack it. Okay? You are ignorant of what the truth is. Every time that we come in, we lay our life down. And so if it sounds weird to you when I say that this is all just a matrix, none of this is real. It's a very short term. If you functioned on the perception of non-linear time, which is the state outside of this realm in which we're inhabiting right now, the whole course of your life will be nothing more than a blink. And we get some of that language coming true that these things happened in the blink of an eye. He was talking about a lifetime. This lifetime that you think is long is at best nothing but the smoke of a cigarette. That's how out of reality we are. We really think that this is the thing. And the reality is this is nothing. It's just a test. It's an opportunity. It's a playground for you to go to learn how to behave yourself, or to learn how to be a kind person, or to learn how to be conscious, or to learn how to care about other people more than yourself, because maybe you got a character flaw on the other side and you need that lesson. But you come here and you don't know that you need it, and you're not hungry to find it, so you go through this life and you never find anything out. And then you die and you do it all over again. Does that have to be that way, should be the question that we're asking. Because the answer unequivocally is knowable, and it's really very simple. And the answer is no, it doesn't have to be that way. That's a choice that you are making every day by your behavior, by your thoughts, by your lack of consciousness, or by your ability to find consciousness. And so if you're not a seeker, then you're not finding anything, and you're just going through the motions thinking this is the deal. And in reality, it's not the deal at all, friends. This is nothing. Some of you will, before others, will get to find that out, that the words I'm saying to you are very true. And so you see that in everything that she's writing here. The pieces, the veritable writing on the wall is all right there in front of you, friend. He wasn't a bit worried. Why? Because he had already laid down his true life. This wasn't life. He was okay for this to pass away. I'll go pick my life back up. The second that his spirit left his body, he picked his life back up. This was nothing but a glitch in time on the universal dimension. And so he says, I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it up again. And as we all do. This isn't just him. This is talking about you as well. If he had not decided it was his time to ascend, it was not fitting into the pattern of his life, then he would not have allowed the Romans to kill him. It appears from this story that he had great control over his body, even to the extent that he could survive what would have killed others who were not so developed. He knew and understood his mission to the point that he could control the time and method of his death. And when you go back and look at all of the ancients, you find that constantly. Those who were truly enlightened people always die the same way. And so it's quite a paradigm shift from where we are brought up believing that things are. And I don't know how many of you know this, but oftentimes we actually harm those that have gone on before us with our behaviors, because we lack intelligence and truth, we very much oftentimes bind those people who have left human consciousness to return to full consciousness, and we bind them by the things that we do, by praying and by leaving flowers on graves. And there's many things where you are actually psychically tying a rope, just as I talk about people that tie ropes to you. Somebody across this country can simply have a bad thought about you, and there is power, energy that is sent through the universe, and it affects you every single time. That somebody, just simply a thought. That's how powerful we are, and yet we don't know that, we don't understand that. We certainly haven't practiced that, and so for us, that's not a reality. But it is a reality in the realm of truth. It's not a reality for you. And so when you sit in the presence of someone and you feel that sense coming off of them, I have it go on all the time. And it's intuition, and the universe is telling you they're dealing with something, but they're never going to say anything. They only think bad thoughts and send you negative energy, and they justify themselves. Well, I don't like what he did to me. I don't like what he said to me. I don't like how he made me feel. He made me feel bad. None of it is about right or wrong. It's only about people's feelings. And so there's really a lot to learn here, because if somebody can do that to you and it affects you, would you not be willing to maybe consider that you're doing the same thing? I can walk in a room and feel the negative energy coming from people, and 9 out of 10 times Source will show me which ones it's coming from. I have it go on literally every single day. You watch people's behaviors, you watch how they run from you, they don't want to be in your presence or whatever. And if you're not careful, you'll blame yourself for that. And it's not you. It's them. So just be mindful of that. The energy and the power that we have, dear friend, is infinitely stronger. So if that is true, if you can allow your mind to even begin to think about that, much less to believe it, then you'll begin to see that those powers have. We have been telepathic in the past. We will be telepathic again. We are weak-minded right now. That's why we use our thoughts without understanding. When somebody has an envious or a negative thought against you, they are not controlling their mind. And we, of course, live in this world, so we get barraged by it. And some people more so than others, and there's different reasons why that's the case. Sometimes it's because of them, but sometimes it's just simply because they're right, and unrightness hates right. And so if you feel those forces coming against you, you walk in and it feels like a brick wall. I think I've lived most of my life as a minister in that area, constantly. And it's because of the people around you are not in the frequency range that you're in, even though they think they're God's ascended masters. Just because they think that doesn't mean it's true. In fact, there's many of the things that are coming out as woo-woo and spiritual now that are very easy to find they're anything but the truth. They sound good. They even make people feel good, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. And so we have a real problem in some of those areas in our society. And so he says that they went into those areas where most people will not go. And I want to be of service where people are needed the most, and there is a group that does the pilgrimage year-round, so I believe this is my destiny. Dolores asks, has the Nazarene left yet? And Abigail answers, he will leave in the morning. And so Dolores then asks again, do you know where he's going? And Abigail says, I believe he's going to make one more pilgrimage, and then he will be going towards Jerusalem. He has people to meet with. And so Dolores then asks, what sort of people do you know? And she says, I know he was to see some of his followers, for he also knows that those who wish to do him harm will come for him soon, and he must prepare himself. And Dolores said, did he tell you anything about what he knows? Abigail says, no, not with clarity. He just told me what I saw was truth, and that we would be in contact, but not in our physical bodies anymore. And so I would love for you for just a second, if you struggle when I tell you that where most people are very, very, very depleted of true psychic power. And the problem is that the condition of the heart will determine how much you can grow in this area, or how negative of a force that you really are. And that's really difficult, because it's difficult to tell people who at least seem to be wanting to walk, and yet they're so full of negativity. Many of the things, they're topsy-turvy, they're upside down, they're very confused. What to some seems as wisdom, to others is a waste of time. And so you end up in this thing, and there's, as I said, there's many things going on right now with power shifts. The earth is changing, guys, whether you realize it or not. This earth is changing. It's about to come apart. And that may be literal, but even if it's not literal, it's certainly figurative. And so Dolores asked, I was wondering if you were going with him in the morning. And she says, no, he does not wish me to walk with him. He wishes me to stay in this village right now. Then he feels that my service as a pilgrimage is very important. He feels that I will serve the cause in the spirit better by staying safe and healthy where I am, where I can. And so Dolores says, you always want to do what he wants you to. And she says, yes. And just so you know, sometimes it's difficult to do what's right. In fact, I will say that the lower your character is, the harder it is to do what's right. It's okay if you have the dialogues with yourself. It's okay if you see it and you recognize it and then you struggle with it. If inevitably your will is to do the right thing, then you will do the right thing. Those struggles are absolutely wonderful, actually, because they show that you are real. If you have no struggle, then you have no conscience. Or if you have no struggle and it's because of conscience, then that's a different deal. You just go with the truth, and you know the truth, and the truth leads you to where you to be. But for other people, truth will come and be presented to them, and they will struggle with it because it makes them guilty. It exposes who they are as people. I mean, I don't know any really easy way to say that. It exposes. It's all right to struggle with doing what's right, but do what's right. Or otherwise, you have a very low character, and inevitably, you're not interested in the truth. You're just playing a game. You're playing a role in a movie that says you're the guy who wants to do what's right, but you can't find it inside of yourself to do that. So don't be that way. I know it's hard. It's really hard. And I think naturally contrary to our human nature on many levels. So don't let that be the guide. Just because you feel uncomfortable does not mean you're in the wrong place. In fact, oftentimes the uncomfortableness is a sign that you're in the right place. And so I was wondering if you were planning to go with him, and she says no. And then Dolores asks, you always want to do what he wants you to. Oh, that this would be every one of our hearts, friend. I love that Dolores picked up on that. Did she struggle when she wanted to go and he told her no? Yes, she did. Did she have her thought processes? Yes, she did. And so she says, yes, sometimes it's difficult. And that's why I said, if it's difficult sometimes, it's okay. The difficulty isn't a sign that you're missing it. It is that which Mother Earth or the universe has sent to you to give you the opportunity to have an opportunity to do what's right, in spite of how bad you're fighting it. And then, of course, if you don't, then I don't necessarily even see that anymore as the end of the world, but you're certainly not blessing yourself. And because you're not blessing yourself, you're not blessing the others around you either. And so I think we need to constantly stay conscious of that. And so she says, yes, sometimes it is difficult. I know that I truly am needed here. I feel very old at times, and indeed she is. And maybe some of you feel very old at times as well. And I'm not talking, I felt old when I was 12 years old. I didn't fit in with my friends. I fit in more with grown adults, and I have my whole life. People who actually, and I was always drawn to intelligent, intellectual people. Why? Because I'm an old soul. I've been here many times. I've seen lots of people that were superficial who never gained anything during the course of their recourse. And I watched them die, and I'll watch them come back in, or they will come in after I'm gone. But the truth of the matter is, friends, is these things do manifest in front of you. If you're conscious and you see them, you look for them, you will see them. And so I feel very old at times. I feel at peace with my decision. But I am so clear with my visions that I know what is going to happen. And this is the plan of God, so I accept it with strength. Nevertheless, not what? Not my will, but His will. Every one of us should be so trained by now in our walk and in our journey of life that every single time that we have that, we submit to Him. Because really, inevitably, that's who you're fighting. You're actually at a war inside of yourself. Remember, your God self will never tell you to do what's wrong. So if you're doing what's wrong, and if you're thinking and contemplating and planning and motivating yourself to do what's wrong, and that can happen in a millisecond. Well, I should help this person, but no, I'm worried about me. I'm going to go have fun. You just went through the whole scenario in 2.5 seconds, and you failed. And the sad part is, that's wonderful if you are conscious of it, but the worst part is most people that do that are unconscious of what they just did. And so they keep just destroying themselves, and they never find peace, and they never grow, and they never experience the goodness. They just simply continue to drudge out, running from what it is that Source wants them to do. I'm sorrowful, but if that's you, then it's a blessing that I would expose that. And if it's not you, then you've probably been noticing it already in other people. It's very, very clear to see. And so I love that she says that it's not easy. What did Yeshua say himself that he came to do? He came to trouble people. Why? Because he was bringing the light, and the light exposes where you're not functioning as light. And that troubles you. You go, oh, well, is it me? And then it's, and that's where you get into this whole nonsense about resonation. It doesn't resonate with me. There's places where that's applicable, but friend, that's not applicable about every time that you want to do something wrong and somebody exposes you. It's not going to resonate with you. In fact, that's the statement I will make. Sometimes you need to start listening to those things that ain't resonating with you. Because to say that I only follow what I resonate with says you're always right and you're smarter than higher self. And I'm sorrowful, friend, none of us that live on this earth are that. And so you really are deceived at that level. And there's lots of deceived people in the spiritual movements. And so sometimes it's difficult. I know that I truly am needed. I feel very old at times. I feel at peace with my decision. But I am so clear with my visions that I know what is going to happen. So here's the peace. She has the delusion. She has the turmoil. She has the tumult inside of herself. But the difference between her and maybe some other people's tumult that they go through, hers is not because she doesn't know. Hers is because she does know. And so you can have those same feelings and them still not be tracking true. Which is kind of where the whole resonating thing, why that is so really prominent. And I hear it a lot. It's a woo-woo. It's like using witchcraft. It's an excuse for everything that you don't want to do. Oh, well, it doesn't. Well, nothing resonates with me. It doesn't resonate to me to go to the bank because they don't give me free money. That's how absurd most of that stuff is. And so, but when it all comes down, where does she bring herself to? She brings herself to that this is the plan of God, and I will accept it with strength. And guess what happens? The minute that she brings herself back into space and time and begins to find her inner peace again, immediately that power is released to her. That's why she's capable of doing this. I'll tell you also, that's why she was allowed to even be around him. Because the universe did more for keeping people away from him than they ever did to bring people to him. You got to see big numbers like 5,000 people. Do you have any clue how big of an area it would take to bring 5,000 people? Every bit of that stuff in the Bible is a lie. There weren't no 5,000 people that he fed. Those people would have had to have come from 120 miles away and walked to get there. That ain't happening. And so, because if he also knows what's going to happen, he could avoid it if he wanted to. And so that kind of brings us back to the place. When we deceive ourselves, we stop the flow of energy and of wisdom and of insight and of understanding that the universe might send to us to protect ourselves. We stop that flow. She didn't stop that flow. She had her little struggle in the middle of it and then faithfully committed herself to God's plan. And if this bad thing of Yeshua dying is God's plan, then I'm okay with it. Such that we should, I would that we all could live our lives with these understandings in us. So I accept it with strength. She isn't doing this out of weakness. She isn't doing this out of fear. She's not doing this out of lack of courage. She accepts his decision, God's decision, with strength. Yes, because he also knows what's going to happen. He could avoid it if he wanted to, Dolores says. And she says, but he was sent here for a purpose such as we all are. So here's maybe a little piece that we could look at. Yeshua came here and he had a purpose and he knew it, or did he? There could be some contention there. And I know at least up to a certain time, he did not necessarily know it. We all go through spells and times where it seems like we gain enlightenment, or when Source begins to speak to you, you can be doing something totally different in your life and Source bring you and begin to minister to you wherever you are, no matter how far it is, and bring you onto the path of your journey. And so, he was sent here for a purpose, but you are too. You are too. You made a conscious effort. You signed consciously. You signed a contract. I know lots of people that steal by fraud, by not paying debt that they owe, and that's one thing to do that as a human. But are you really going to renege on a contract that you signed in the spiritual realm? You remember you're going back there for eternity, right? And that doesn't seem to get brought out much. Yeshua wasn't interested in breaking his contract that he consciously signed before he came into existence. And you did the same thing. That's why it's actually very sad that people aren't looking for what their place and their purpose is. In fact, most are trying to run from it because it involves responsibility. You actually have an obligation to the universe. And you keep running from it for whatever reason. Okay. But I have to tell you, karma is neither bad nor good, but it is the effect of your behavior. So are you freeing yourself from karma this lifetime, or are you actually still adding karma to this lifetime? It really is a question you should ask yourself every day, almost minute by minute. As you become enlightened, the purpose of enlightenment is to rid yourself of the karma. And so, but I came so clear, I'm sorry. He was sent here for a purpose, such as we all are, and his purpose has been served. So in ascending, he will continue to grow and do far more good than remaining in the physical body at present. So he does this for his own growth in spirit. It's no different than you. I know that this may be foreign and archaic to whoever comes by and listens, and you may even, as they said of Paul, you may think I'm a madman. But I'm telling you right now, friends, you're either blessing or hurting yourself. There's nobody that has the power to do that to you in the spirit realm. It's you. And I know that's hard, and if you take that as hard and you maybe quite haven't grown to have enough ability to be able to rationalize, then I'm sorrowful if that feels offensive to you. But the reality of it all is that we all are the creators of our lives. Are there other people that bring things that affect us? Of course there are. But inevitably, we are the ones who will continue in that path. And so he does this so he can grow. So why should we be doing these things? So that you can grow. So that when you go back to the spirit realm, you took something. What lessons? So wouldn't it be kind of crazy? Because, you know, I share, and there's lots of other people that share too, that we should be looking in every bad situation and good situation for what is the lesson here. And the more that I do that, the more I find a lesson. Sometimes it's a simple little lesson. Well, don't say that to that person. Don't respond when they act like that, because if you respond, then it brings you into their mess, and maybe it's chaos, maybe it's confusion. Why would you put yourself in chaos and confusion? Just let it go. The next time that person does that, don't join in their game, and you don't have to be a part of it. There's lots of these things that go on. But they have to be done from the heart with the right spirit, the right intent. And but all of this individually, all of this higher consciousness, all of this work that needs to be done, shadow work, self-discipline, mental discipline, self-love, love of others, all of those things are supposed to be done for you to become the best you. I'm not quite sure that oftentimes people really get that. You know, everybody does what's right in their own eyes. It's really amazing how profound that is. Because what that says is that you have the answers, but you have no answers. You believe you have the answers, when in fact you have no answers. And so Dolores then asked, "Do you have any desire to return to Jerusalem to see your parents?" And Abigail says, "I do, but this will come later." I love she's so focused. She's so clear. No matter what the situation is, she's been in contact with the source, and she's all right. She's got a plan, and she's cool with it. And it's going to be to do what's right. That's how you know she's been talking with her higher self. It's because she does what's right. No matter, she looks at it, she examines it, she recognizes that she's having struggle, and then she does what's right. And that's exactly the steps every one of us should be striving for with all of our humanness every single day. And then you're going to have glitches, and you're going to fall down, and you're going to scuff your knee, and you're going to say things in anger, and you're going to then hate yourself for saying things in anger. You then again have to learn how to love yourself, because it's not doing you any good to hate yourself. You're a human and you made a mistake. Learn from it and continue on. And so she says, "Do you have any desire to return to Jerusalem to see your parents?" And Abigail says, "Yes, but that will be later." And Dolores says, "All right, let's move to the morning when he is getting ready to leave. Did you see him before he left?" And then Abigail responds, sadly, almost crying. She says, "Yes. There are a few people that are leaving with him, softly, almost inaudibly, you can just feel the emotion that's sweeping through her. She loves him. Is it going to affect her emotions that somebody that she loves is going on this journey, and it's going to be the last time that they're on this earth? And I am just having some trouble. And then she began to cry, because I know his path is going to be filled with pain and accusations. And yet I look at him and his eyes are so kind and loving. I don't know about you, but I love this Jesus. I see the golden glow from his heart out of the chakra. It is part of the aura, the energy of the chakra. Those things are very real. There's lots of people prostituting them and selling chakra and all of that stuff for their own gain. But you notice there's no gain that's been made here. He's not given chakra readings so he can make some money in his pocket. His chakra is evidenced by coming out of him, and people see it. They see the crown chakra. They see the chakra that we all have in our hands, which is why our hands are so powerful. And yet I look at him and his eyes are so kind and loving. I see the golden glow from his heart, center and around his head. Heart chakra, crown chakra. Her voice broke, and I can't begin to find the words. It is hard to see him leave this time. And Dolores writes, the emotion was contagious. It was difficult to interrupt, yet it was important to move the story forward. And so Dolores asked, but they are going on their pilgrimage, you said. Abigail says, yes, this will be his last. And Dolores says, did he say goodbye to you? And Abigail responds softly, yes. He put his hands on my face and he looked at me. And he wished me to continue to walk while being led by my heart and my spirit. Can I tell you, dear one, today, that he craves, the Father craves for us to experience that kind of connection? It's really horrible how much self-hate really exists in humans. And many of you might even argue that that's not true. And that's okay. You can argue all you want to. But the warmth and compassion that comes out to other people comes out to other people because of it living in you. That doesn't mean you're not human. It doesn't mean you don't have mistakes. But it also does not trump that either. And so he put his hands on my face and he looked at me and he wished me to continue to walk while being led by my heart and my spirit. And that is the truth. Can I tell you the truth today, dear one? If Yeshua was here, and he is in spirit, if Yeshua was here, he would put his hands on your face. And he would tell you, I desire for you to continue to walk in truth. Is it going to be hard? Sometimes it is. Is it always going to be joyful and happy and full of peace? No, it's not. But I want you to continue anyways. Amazing. And so Dolores then asked, I know you have felt very close to him, that's why it's emotional for you, but it's very wonderful to have had contact with a person like that, all right? Let's leave that scene and move ahead. I want you to move to the next time that you see him and have contact with him, if there is a next time. And Dolores then writes, I did not think there would be a next time, since she was so certain she would not see him again before he died. But I thought we should see. I guess I was still hoping there was a way to get her to Jerusalem in time to witness the crucifixion and give an eyewitness account. And so Dolores says to her, let's move ahead in time till the next time that you meet with him. And when I finished the sentence, she gave an outburst of emotion and tears And I thought maybe she was seeing his death. And Dolores says, it will be all right. If it bothers you too much, you can always watch it as an observer. What's happening? Tearfully, she says, I am. It's oh. And Dolores says, what is it? And we'll stop right here. She says, I am on the road and I'm walking into the village of the lepers. And he has been gone. I mean, he has had his physical death. But yet, there he is. I see him. I see him on the road. Let me ask you a question, dear one. How can you see someone who's dead? Can I tell you and give you an insight maybe you haven't seen or thought of clearly? Maybe you have. And if you have, then that's wonderful. What if in reality the death that we call death is only the death of this body? So Yeshua was alive. I tell you what, these things that I'm sharing with you guys, these insights have totally changed when I pick a baby up or when I see a baby on television or when I hear about something that has to do with a baby. It's totally changed my picture of that. Those babies are not babies. They come into this earth, and once they receive revelation, they have many, many, many things already. That's why many of you have thoughts from so early in your life. Normally, you might have thought that children come in and they're a blank slate, but they're not. The only question is, what does it take to open that door so that they can begin to expose that they've already been here? And if we knew that was the truth, although we are learning it as a species, then we would begin, when a child is born, we would begin to help them and assist them to open that door. You have no clue what a utopian world really looks like. It could happen and it could exist. But it only happens and exists when we are told who we are. And with that, I say to you tonight, maybe you should ponder who you are. If you are, then wonderful. You're maybe ahead of most people. But I have to tell you, dear one, we have a purpose. This is not a waste of time. This is not something that we should really take lightly. In fact, it's something we should take very seriously. And so I hope you guys are starting to wake up. If you feel uncomfortable sometimes, maybe you should then begin to look deeper and see, is that uncomfort because it's truth, or is that uncomfort because it's not truth? And train yourself to make these conscious thoughts, to become conscious. It really is the becoming of consciousness. And you have to become it. It doesn't, you don't just get it. You have to become it. And you do that by opening your mind. And so I hope that's been a blessing to some of you. I hope some of you are even seeing changes positively, hopefully, in your life go on. They can bring and cause you tumult, but they should not bring negative outcomes for the most part. And so that's another story as well. So I'd like to say to you today, shalom. I hope that you have a wonderful, blessed rest of your week. For those of you who may be still under the deception of American patriotism, your day of independence on Friday, pop all the fireworks you can and have a good time. Friends, we're here. We're here. We are alive, and now we were dead, and now we're becoming alive, if I could say it like that. So I hope that the awakening is happening, and it's happening profoundly in your life. And I say to you tonight, namaste. We'll be back on Saturday. May our Creator, the universe, be with you.